Next, the chair calls up Larry Linenschmidt. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
We have you registered as Larry Linenschmidt. You are testifying neutral and you are self.
Yes, sir.
You may begin. Thank you.
All of the above.
Thank you.
Chairman Goldman, Chairman Metcalf, and distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you about issues of concern to me and the groups I work with. I'm a theologically conservative Christian and a politically conservative voter. I appreciate the passing of SB 3 and look forward to seeing this solid addition to our grid's reliability fully enacted and built out. This bill, along with SB 2, is only a beginning. It does not solve the electric power issues of our great state. I was delighted when I heard that the PUC and the Texas Railroad Commission have had interaction with the Texas state climatologist. I find that the Senate bills are missing words like climate change, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions. I see nothing about Milton Friedman's concept of taxing pollution. So I ask that in your consideration of the Texas electric grid and any other state infrastructure, you consider the impact of global warming. Your constituents' lives have been disrupted by hurricanes, droughts, and other extreme weather events, which have been amplified by climate change. They pay more in electricity bills and more for property taxes, or for property and flood insurance, as well as many other costs due to climate change. Climate change science is well documented, and its impact on Texas, past, present, and future, is available in a concise report from the Texas State Climatologist at Texas A&M, which I refer to as the Texas 2036 report. And at the end of my testimony, I have information to get to that online. If you don't consider climate change in your weatherization plans, isn't that the same as going on a road trip without a map or without your GPS? Please require the Texas PUC and related agencies to drive our electric grid to achieve a 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. Incentivizing greenhouse gas emissions reductions in the operation of our electric grid will have several co-benefits, including improving the health of all Texans by simultaneously reducing air and water pollution, enhanced economic opportunity as we improve grid reliability and resilience as we diversify our grid's energy resources. Cleaner energy production improves the global competitiveness of our commercial industries. The Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation, the foundation of the man who made commercial fracking viable, and UT have prepared the paper Texas Net Zero by 2050, which builds the case for decarbonizing Texas. Further, the European Union is moving forward with the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which provides for taxes on imported goods produced using fossil fuels unless they were taxed in their home country. Unless we move towards decarbonization, we could find our manufacturing paying taxes to foreign governments to sell goods there or simply priced out of the market. We should use every reasonable, practical way possible to sustain and grow our great state's leadership in the production of energy by renewable resources. Texas needs to be known as a state with regulatory consistency. We've heard this earlier today. When the current generation companies entered the Texas market, they did not have a requirement to weatherize their facilities. Since the rules have changed, please pass legislation in this session to repay the generators for the cost of weatherization and the lost revenue due to weatherization, particularly the loss of productivity of the wind turbines during warmer months due to installing winterization kits. Please facilitate the expansion of transmission lines in the state of Texas, which are prepared to withstand extreme weather events and wildfire. These generic transmission issues were mentioned by Representative Darby, and that's a part of what I'm addressing. But the Texas 2036 report also addresses increase in wildfire risk. We've also mentioned hurricanes earlier. So we need to be sure that our transmission lines are enhanced to take care of those more frequent wildfires as well as extreme weather events. Our state will continue to face strains on the grid and potential blackouts unless we add significantly to our transmission capacity. Electric power generation is limited now by congestion on the grid, and we lose power, which could be part of the solution. We are also losing new investment by generators because of concerns about curtailments. Weatherization should include remedial procedures to avoid the release of methane and other toxic gases, which we experienced during Winter Storm Uri. Weatherization should also be considered from the standpoint of demand as well as supply. There's tremendous opportunity for Texans to use less electricity through enhanced insulation of commercial and residential properties and other additions to home energy systems. Reduced demand will also limit greenhouse gases emitted to produce our electricity. I suggest you require SACO, the State Energy Conservation Office, to move from 2015 IECC for the Commercial Energy Code and the 2015 IRC for Residential Energy Code to the current versions of those codes, 2021 IECC and 2021 IRC. The commercial energy savings across all climate zones in Texas between the 2015 and 21 standards are reported to be 8.6%. The EPA reports energy savings from home insulation and other improvements could be 15%. I don't have a number for the grid as a whole, but looking at an individual home, that's pretty significant. And since we're stretching the limits of what we can provide, anything that cuts down what we use would be great. Texas can be involved in providing funds for the retrofit of Texas homes and commercial buildings to obtain a practical and economically viable level of insulation. Build on the Cool Chillers HVAC loan program, which provides low interest rate loans that enable public entities to replace 12-year-old or older chillers and associated equipment to include privately owned commercial and residential properties. The funds could be administered by the state or by local utilities. Enact the recommendations of the AEE in the paper, Energy Efficiency and Demand Response, Tools to Address Texas Reliability Challenges, through the following 7 programs, which have large peak demand savings and which appear to be cost effective. A program to replace electric furnaces with electric star heat pumps. Attic insulation and ceiling incentive programs. Smart thermostat incentive program. Heat pump water heaters incentive program. Central air conditioner demand response program with smart thermostat control. Water heater demand response program. Electric vehicle managed charging program. As a Christian, look to leaders in our faith, and many Christian leaders from many traditions in the faith accept the science of climate change. That includes Billy Graham and Pope Francis. Conservatives have a long history of caring for the environment. Conservatives led the effort to clean the environment when the Cuyahoga River in Ohio was burning. Ronald Reagan said, states and federal government have a duty to protect our natural resources from the damaging effects of pollution. The science of global warming leading to climate change has been extensively studied and verified. The increase in greenhouse gases since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution is a primary driver of global warming. The average daily temperature in Texas has increased 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit since the 1880s. Increased heat, drought, and more extensive hurricane and tropical storm damage and other extreme weather issues will continue to batter Texas. Attribution science shows that Hurricane Harvey was approximately 10% stronger and was much more impactful due to climate change. The U.S. military refers to climate change as a threat multiplier and is preparing plans for the tensions created by it. Leading Texas corporations, such as ExxonMobil, Occidental, and Halliburton, all have acknowledged the science of climate change and are building their future business models around the opportunities and challenges it presents. Data is not partisan. Temperatures have increased and greenhouse gas emissions are the primary cause. By reference, I incorporate the following: the 2036 report, Assessment of Historic and Future Trends of Extreme Weather in Texas, 1900 to 2036, 2021 update from Texas A&M. The Mitchell Foundation report, Texas can get to net zero by 2050 and simultaneously boost the economy. The American Council for Energy Efficient Economy, Energy Efficiency and Demand Response, Tools to Address Texas Reliability Challenges. Climate Signals, Economic Costs of Hurricane Harvey attributable to climate change. The U.S. Defense Department tackling the climate crisis, and the ExxonMobil Environmental Protection - Climate Change Statement. The lack of reliable energy in Texas could be considered one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which could derail the Texas economic miracle. Lack of reliable energy, lack of adequate water resources, air pollution, and unfunded pension liabilities. And today in Austin, Texas, we're in an ozone alert. And that's not an uncommon occurrence. It's probably more common in Houston. But greenhouse gases are contributed to our air pollution issues. So if you and your staff are interested in discussing these issues in person, I'd be glad to meet with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief. But Larry, I want to thank you for this comprehensive information and testimony that you have presented to these combined committees. I too share some of the concerns that you raised here about the science of climate change and the impact of global warming that has had on extreme weather conditions in this state. And I do believe that it's prudent that we look at this and adequately address it so that we don't continue to find solutions that don't address the crux of the problem. And I think you've identified that here, and there's sound science and research to back it up. And I think that, unfortunately, speaking candidly, it is, for whatever reason, has become more mired in partisan politics. And I think that that's unfortunate because it keeps us from really looking into the issues. And I know you've testified before another committee that I sit on, environmental regulation, and it brought these same concerns to our committee. So hopefully, sound research and practices will be implemented as we look at comprehensive solutions to many of these complex problems that we've had with these 100-year events that are becoming more and more frequent as we see the impact of global warming. You look at what's happening in Pakistan with the monsoons, and you see it at different places across the globe. So I take it serious, and I think that eventually we'll get there. And I thank you for your persistence in being willing to share this information with us today.
Thank you, Representative Reynolds. Yeah, I'd love to see Texas have a climate change plan. The 5 largest cities in Texas have a climate change plan now. You know, El Paso, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. And I think there's great opportunity for us. Putting our head in the sand is not going to make it go away. It's going to be there. And so thank you for your
I'll say this one thing, and you may be pleased to know this. As a result of a lot of these issues, some of my colleagues and I founded and formed the Texas Caucus on Climate, Environment, and Energy Industry, and I'm proud to serve as the vice chair of that caucus. And we are looking at these issues, and a lot of this information here will be helpful. So thank you.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it, Representative Reynolds.
Members, any other questions? All right. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.